Thank you for joining us for this look at some of the best stories from KPBS News this week. I'm John Carroll. Coming up, it's been a hot week and demand for energy is high in San Diego. See how our local grid is adapting as renewable energy plays a greater role. Frontwave Arena in Oceanside is just days from hosting its first event. See the progress made at the new sports and entertainment venue. And Congressman Mike Levin talks with KPBS News. Get his thoughts on the presidential race and more as the election cycle heats up. We start with a surprise announcement from a Team USA star who's deciding to hang up her cleats in San Diego. Alex Morgan says she will retire after one more match for Wave FC this weekend. Tanya Thorne has more from the World Cup champion.
Legend, icon, and an all-star women's soccer player, Alex Morgan, announced her retirement in a video message posted to her X account. Morgan calls the decision a tough one, but one that she had been debating since the start of this season.
I'm retiring, and I have so much clarity about this decision, and I'm so happy to be able to finally tell you.
Morgan said soccer has been a part of her life for 30 years, a professional career that includes titles with the U.S. women's national team.
It's Morgan once more.
FIFA Women's World Cup championships.
An artist and her canvas, Alex Morgan.
And signing with San Diego Wave in 2022. Accomplishments that she said helped shape and expand women's soccer.
We're changing lives, and the impact we have on the next generation is irreversible, and I'm proud in the hand I had in making that happen.
As captain of the Wave, Morgan helped lead the team to the playoffs in their inaugural season, followed by the team's first trophy in the 2023 National Women's Soccer League Shield.
She's just a great human being. She fights for women's rights. She fights for equal pay. And she is a huge part of the San Diego community.
Amy Holmes is with the San Diego Sirens, an independent supporter group of San Diego Wave Football Club.
So choosing to come here and take a risk on a brand new team, we're so grateful for that. And she has really ingrained herself in our community.
While Morgan's retirement is bittersweet, Holmes says it brings new opportunities.
We'll miss her immensely on the field, and we hope she stays involved with the team. But it's definitely an opportunity for the club and also the national team to bring in some youth and to bring in someone to fill those shoes. They have huge shoes to fill, obviously, but it really does allow for growth and progression in the game.
News of Morgan's retirement also came with a second announcement.
I am pregnant. And as unexpected as this came, we are so overjoyed.
This is Morgan's second child. Her final game will be at Snapdragon Stadium on Sunday at 5 p.m. San Diego Wave FC will be holding a celebration of Morgan's career at their final home game on November 3rd. From the KPBS Newsroom, Tanya Thorne.
Alex Morgan's retirement is also part of the discussion on KPBS Roundtable. It's our weekly chance to talk with local reporters about stories happening around San Diego. Roundtable airs Fridays at noon on KPBS FM, and it's available as a podcast. Another topic this week is all the sales tax measures on this year's ballot. One way to keep track of our political content is the KPBS Voter Hub. Go to kpbs.org and look for the link at the top of our homepage. It's available in English and Spanish. The Voter Hub includes important dates and a mix of local and national news. You can also send us your questions to help us guide our election coverage. We're roughly 60 days from the election, and people will be voting even sooner. KPBS is holding conversations with San Diego's congressional delegation about democracy. Recently, Amitha Sharma spoke with North County Congressman Mike Levin. The Democrat gave his thoughts on the Kamala Harris-Tim Walz campaign.
We in California know Kamala Harris's legacy of service to our state as Attorney General, as Senator, and now as Vice President. And we're proud of her as our first ever Democratic nominee from California. But what's exciting to me about Governor Walz is he came from a very difficult congressional district. And so he was a red to blue candidate for Congress. He then was a frontline member of Congress in one of the most competitive districts anywhere in the country, in Minnesota. And he also had a great legacy of service as governor of Minnesota. And again, what we have seen in terms of the numbers on the ground, the people who are excited to knock on doors, make calls, it's really reminiscent to me of 2008 and what we saw when Barack Obama was running. And if we can just continue with that excitement, with that enthusiasm over these next 9 or 10 weeks, I think we're going to be in very good shape come November.
So much has been said about democracy being on the line in the November presidential election. A recent Gallup poll, I think the Gallup poll was from January of this year, showed that just 28% of Americans believe that democracy is working for them compared to 35% after January 6, 2021. How do you view those numbers?
It tells me that we have a lot of work to do, and my hope is that everyone in time will understand that they have agency in the democratic process. This democracy is only good as we all make it. For me, it's about information, education, and then really community building as best as we can, listening to our neighbors, trying to understand their viewpoints, and knowing we're not going to agree on everything all the time, but also knowing that we're all Americans, and again, we all are participants in this process. But people have become very disenchanted. And if you really just follow the narrative these last number of years, and particularly if you're just watching cable news, or again, God help you if you're just getting your news on social media, you're seeing a very bleak and dark picture. And of course, I would say that Donald Trump was not the cause, but he's certainly been an accelerant of a lot of the embrace of anti-democratic principles, at least anti-democratic as we historically have known them in the United States. So I am deeply concerned, and I'm going to do everything I can as one member out of 435 in the House of Representatives to try to stand up for our institutions, stand up for the rule of law, and ultimately try to work with young people in particular to ensure that they're getting civically engaged.
Let's talk about Project 2025, a blueprint to implement right-wing policies. Many people say a pathway to authoritarianism. How informed do you think people are about exactly what Project 2025 entails?
Well, I think people are hearing more and more about it as time goes on. I mean, if it were up to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, no one would have heard of it ever. But I think it was really important for the American people to understand what's been being planned behind the scenes by the Heritage Foundation and by people that are directly in Trump and Vance's network. It is a very lengthy document. It's 900 pages long, so it's tough for people to digest. But it has some truly bizarre and extreme ideas on everything from limiting reproductive freedom to undermining education. You name it. I'm basically empowering the wealthy and well-connected at the expense of everyone else. And if allowed to take root in the fabric of our institutions, it would, I think, lead to irreparable harm.
Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington recently published a report that showed 35 county election officials have refused to certify elections since 2020 and remain in positions to do so. How equipped is the system to deal with the potential chaos if that happens again?
The reality is that I think you have far too many people at those lower level positions who are really just sycophants for Donald Trump. My good news, I guess, to the extent is that the secretaries of state themselves from these swing states, there were really only about 7 swing states, I think most of them are committed to a full, free and fair election.
Congressman, you're out there campaigning for re-election. What are constituents saying to you about the November presidential election?
Well, people are enthused across the board, and there was a big enthusiasm gap, I will tell you, as recently as a few months ago. We know that many Republicans are very excited to vote for Donald Trump. On our side of the aisle, I can tell you that today, as things stand in our district, Democrats are just as excited to vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and no party preference voters are also now very excited to vote, and they were completely unenthusiastic in many cases, and now are very enthusiastic to vote.
Congressman Levin, thank you so much for speaking to me today.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Amitha Sharma also had a discussion with the new chair of the San Diego County Republican Party. Much of it focused on the presidential race and why local Republicans believe Donald Trump should return to the White House. That story is available at kpbs.org and on the KPBS YouTube page. Sign up for our newsletters to get a list of our most popular stories. Here are some from this week. A fire at an SDG&E battery storage facility in Escondido prompts evacuations. Housing politics have entered the presidential race, and San Diego YIMBYs are thrilled. And the San Diego Unified School District fires its superintendent after an investigation into misconduct allegations. This next story is also among our most popular. The modern electrical grid has become a careful dance between demand and generation. And here in California, generation is moving toward renewables. KPBS Sci-Tech reporter Thomas Fudge tells us how an electrical testbed at UC San Diego is designed to change the way we consume energy.
It looks like one side of a duck, and grid operators call it the duck curve. If you trace the net daily demand for energy in California, that's demand minus energy supply, it starts at midnight with the tail. The belly of the duck comes at midday when solar energy production is at its peak. But then demand zooms up to form the head of the duck in the early evening when demand for energy is high and the sun is setting.
So in the belly of the day, basically from, that early afternoon, even late mornings, let's just use that noon to 3 p.m. is kind of the deepest part of the belly, meaning where our net load is at its lowest because of our output from our renewable resources.
Brian Murray is Director of Real-Time Operations for Cal ISO, the state's electrical grid, and he says that duck curve represents the challenge of meeting demand in a world of renewable energy, which is variable and can't be produced by just throwing a switch. When he talks about renewables, he mostly means solar power, which provides most of California's electricity during daytime and summer. He says California's state-controlled renewable energy has a total of 31,000 megawatts of capacity. Solar energy makes up about two-thirds of that. Wind power is the second largest contributor. And as technology and construction move ahead, that will surely change.
Offshore wind is going to become, that's in the planning horizon for us.
And then there are the battery farms. Murray calls the recent growth in that energy source exponential.
The batteries has been a major player for us in terms of their flexibility, right? It's not like a steam plant that needs 10 hours to turn on. Batteries are essentially always on. They can be discharging and providing energy to the grid, or they can be consuming energy while they're charging. So they're beneficial in multiple areas of the duck curve.
Flexibility is the key to running a modern energy supply operation that's moving to renewables. When one source is not producing, you have to switch to another. When you have more energy production than you can use, you export it to another state or use it to charge the battery farms. And flexibility in demand, called energy load, is also important. In a low-slung building just below the trolley tracks at UC San Diego, engineering researchers show us 2 rooms filled with computers, breakers, and nodes. The nodes are small boxes that communicate with electrical devices on campus. The new building is the hub of an energy testbed that will study a big chunk of the campus to learn how devices can be turned off and on to make the most of energy supply. Professor Jan Kleisel is principal investigator for what they call DER Connect.
Right, you have water heaters, you have electric vehicles, you have air conditioning systems, you have something as small as a printer that's not being used. So we're looking at thousands of these devices that are spread throughout the campus, and we pick those that are ready to reduce load or increase load, and then we communicate with them and make them run faster or slower, depending on what we need.
Testbed project manager Keaton Chia says the energy demand side is constantly in flux.
So how do we manage the coordination? How do we make these distributed devices smart enough to actually talk back and communicate essential information back to each other so that we can maintain that balance between generation and load across the whole grid.
One example of a smart device is a building sensor that can tell the grid there's nobody on the floor of an office building. The building can be programmed to turn off the lights and suspend air circulation to that floor. The UCSD testbed, like the California grid, also has batteries that can store energy and, if you want, generate energy to simulate, let's say, a wind power station.
Because of that variability, we need to look for flexibility and variation on the load side as well. And that way, again, we can work together, customer and generator provider, to maintain that balance.
The primary goal at UCSD is to create a set of algorithms to program the grid to supply power where demand actually exists. The political force that's driving changes to California's electrical grid are state laws that demand greater use of renewable energy. Murray with CalISO says the state's power supply has to be 60% renewable by 2030 and 100% by 2045. Can we meet those goals? Murray says we can.
We've got statistics that show we've got a number of days where we've already produced, 100% of our load by renewables. So to say, can we achieve 60% by 2030? Absolutely. We're pretty close to that already.
Nuclear energy is also clean energy since it doesn't emit greenhouse gases. But Murray says nuclear's production is very inflexible, so you cannot easily reduce it or shut it off. So with the growth we're seeing in other clean energies, he doesn't think nuclear will be needed in California's future. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
California lawmakers have passed a bill requiring schools to come up with policies to limit the use of smartphones on campus. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne says some districts already have those rules.
The hustle and bustle of students is back at Sage Creek High School in Carlsbad. But the buzzing of phones is not. Kind of.
We'd been hearing from some teachers and from parents that phones seem to be a distraction in class. So our school board was interested to know if there was a way to address this.
Ben Churchill is a superintendent for Carlsbad Unified School District. He says the school board approved cell phone restrictions ahead of the new school year.
Elementary and middle school, the phones are supposed to be silent and out of sight all day long. They can certainly bring them with them, but they need to stay in a backpack or in a pocket, not used even during breaks and recess and lunch.
But for high schools, cell phone use is only allowed during breaks or with the teacher's permission. Sage Creek High School principal Josh Wade explains.
We've asked our teachers to clarify, when is it appropriate to use a cell phone for an instructional purpose? That's the part that might not have been as clear in the past because, for example, in our multimedia journalism class and some of the digital media classes, cell phones are a tremendous resource with film editing and communication and marketing. And so they still have an important use in this learning environment, but it's clarifying with students what those are.
Ignoring the new restrictions can lead to teachers confiscating the phone, which Wade says has yet to happen. But Carlsbad isn't the only school district implementing cell phone restrictions. Earlier this year, Governor Gavin Newsom urged California school districts to limit cell phone use in schools, saying excessive use is linked to increased anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues. Other districts are also taking action. Last week, the San Diego Board of Supervisors approved a policy for mental health experts to help school districts curb cell phone use in schools. The policy includes a $100,000 grant for lockable phone pouches and lockers.
This is all about, tackling head-on the mental health crisis facing our young people, and that social media and smartphones in an unrestricted way is part of that. But we're really talking about how we can be partners to our principals, our parents, and our schools to come up with holistic policies.
Eligible school districts include San Diego, Coronado, Poway, Carlsbad, and San Diego. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
A brand new sports and entertainment hub is about to open its doors in Oceanside. Frontwave Arena recently gave us a sneak peek. Once again, here's Tanya Thorne.
We're here at the new Frontwave Arena in Oceanside, and as you can see, construction has moved along very quickly. Now, the last time we were here was back in December, where seats weren't installed yet, signage wasn't up, but as you can see, things have moved along, and they've moved along very quickly.
This is a homegrown project, and it's really for the community, and we can't wait for people to come and visit and see what we have going on here and what it's going to add to, not only Oceanside, but North County, San Diego.
Josh Elias is the CEO of Frontwave Arena, a 7,500 capacity arena in Oceanside's El Corazon Park that will host sporting and entertainment events.
We really want to get this open and get people inside to really see what we've created. I mean, it really is amazing when you think about how we paid attention to the acoustics and the AV, obviously the food, but the premium services, our outdoor plaza, and how it all just ties together to create an experience.
Frontwave Arena will be home to the San Diego Sockers and the San Diego Clippers, an experience that Elias thinks will grow the sports fan base and talent.
Really the big thing here is having those players in the community to build a fan base, you know, not only for what we're doing here for San Diego Clippers, but to watch these players develop into an NBA talent and then watch them on the big stage.
But bigger events and a new arena bring traffic concerns, which Elias says they've kept top of mind.
Capacity is 7,500, but that doesn't mean that every show is going to be 7,500. A lot of our stuff will be 5,000, 6,000. We have a lot of family type of events, which requires less cars per person. But we also have the experience here with the SoCal Sports Complex, already in operation, has been for many, many years. And, you know, they see 10,000 people in a day. We'll never see 10,000 people in a day. So we feel very good about our traffic plan and our ability to work together with our partners at SoCal, as well as the Aquatic Center and the City of Oceanside.
Bringing a taste of North County was also key in the development of the arena. Eateries will include local vendors, and shows will feature local talent.
You know, what are the shows that we're going to, you know, program to the venue? And then you think about the food and the local craft eateries that we're bringing in here and creating a destination for culinary.
Elias says they have partnerships with the Belly Up and Cardiff's Seaside Market. And while the Olympic season has wrapped up, the Olympics continue here with Simone Biles breaking the arena floor on September 16th and 17th with the Gold Over America tour. And now Frontwave Arena is having their grand opening concert with the band Cake on October 5th. And there's a full lineup of events where tickets can already be purchased on their website. Reporting in Oceanside, Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
A hidden gem in Vista is turning 25 this year. KPBS North County reporter Alexander Nguyen takes us to a secret garden and shows why it's so special to the people there.
Up in the hills of Vista, behind a public park, lies a secret garden filled with turtles, butterflies, and the occasional dragonfly.
And unless you go up to the top of the hill looking for us, you wouldn't know we're here.
But the secret garden is actually 17 gardens in all.
I refer to it as a boutique botanical gardens.
The Alta Vista Botanical Gardens was founded in 1999, but its history stretches back further. In the 1960s, retired Surgeon Paul Smigin and his wife Martha bought this property inside Branco Terrace Park. It was their vacation home.
It's a haven of nature and beauty.
And the couple loved the wildlife here.
The gardens has many little creatures and big ones too. We have some of the most beautiful red-tailed hawks.
The couple left the 16-acre property to charity, and the city of Vista bought it in 1990 for nearly $2 million and incorporated it as part of Branco Terrace Park. In 1999, the city designated much of the land as a public garden to be managed by a nonprofit foundation. That's how Vista Botanical Garden Foundation and the gardens came to be.
We signed a lease with the city of Vista for 99 years. It was a barren hillside, and with the help of volunteers over the 25 years, we've turned it into a beautiful area for discovery and adventure.
Rusty Dixon is the manager at Alta Vista Botanical Gardens. She says it's not just a public space, but also a place where cherished family memories are made and milestones are celebrated. The gardens hold a special place in her heart.
I had a memory pop up on my phone. It's us standing in front of that chain link. Well, it's my kids standing in front of that chain link, and they must have been 6 and 7, 5 and 6, and now they're 18 and 19. I mean, both of them are leaving me this week.
Aww. Dixon proudly shows off her children, Carson and Addison, as she shows us around the children's garden. It's the first garden after the entrance.
My children grew up here.
Dixon's children are now in college, which leaves her more time to dedicate to the gardens.
360 view what needs to be done, how to get it done. My weakness in the past has been plants. But I said in the past because every day I'm learning something new, what just keeps it even more exciting.
The garden's mission is to educate, protect, and preserve endangered habitats. Part of that is letting people experience nature and showing them the trees and plants from different parts of the world.
This is what we call our Madagascar garden, and all of these are primarily from Madagascar, hence the name.
Of course, it wouldn't be Madagascar without a baobab tree. But here, it's represented by a sculpture.
And it was donated by our artist, Robert Rochin, in 2015. And you can see the beautiful bougainvillea that is sharing its space.
It's not the only sculpture at Alta Vista. Some of them take you to the past.
These are our cycads.
The prehistoric past.
Right behind you is one of our prehistoric dinosaur sculptures.
There are Deinonychus and Spinosaurus. They were done by artist Ricardo Preseda, the same artist who made the dinosaur sculptures in Borrego Springs. At Alta Vista, his sculptures include a scorpion, giraffe, and a serpent. There are dozens of sculptures from different artists around the gardens, merging nature and art for a bit of zen.
What makes this garden special is that it is mostly volunteer-run with minimal staff, and the volunteers do take the initiative to adopt and maintain a section of the garden.
For a place that's mostly volunteer-run, Dixon says turning 25 is a huge milestone.
To celebrate it, we are having a fundraising gala.
She says the entrance and membership fees only cover a portion of the expenses of running the gardens. The rest is made up by donations, so the funds raised by the gala will help the garden remain open for many years, allowing future generations to enjoy it, just as her kids have.
This area is its tranquility, its peace, it's a haven.
Alexander Lin, KPBS News.
Be sure to subscribe to the KPBS YouTube page and get notified when new content is posted. That's also where we live stream KPBS Evening Edition weeknights at 5. We hope you enjoyed this look at KPBS News this week. I'm John Carroll. Thank you for joining us.